What up, Pittsburgh Steelers fans? Matty Shannon White here for another episode of the Steelers Global Perspective. Shannon, mandatory minicamp has wrapped up, OTAs have wrapped up, and training camp is coming up. I finally got the order right.
You got it.
Well done. Here we go. Third time's a charm. Looking ahead to training camp, July 24th, I wanted to sort of talk to you about a lot of different narratives going on with the Steelers right now. A lot of different narratives around players. Obviously, there's the quarterback position, there's the slot cornerback position, there's the wide receiver position, there's Minka, going back to playing his actual position, which we've talked about in our content this weekend. All these different narratives. But what are you, and I'm happy for you to split it, address it however the way you like, between being a fan and a Steelers writer and podcaster. Tell us about what you've got coming up, thinking about doing, and if you want over the next few weeks in terms of articles as well, even though they're not on our sort of platform. But I guess as a fan and as a Steelers podcaster writer, what are the big narratives for you for training camp? But also more so, what are you looking like? What do you want to see at training camp from the Steelers? Like what do you need to see to know? Yeah, they're going to be good in 2024.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I don't know if I'll get to go to training camp. So I have to rely on a lot of the guys that there's a few guys I really listen to.
Yep.
Because I have faith in what they're saying, what they're seeing, they're witnessing, and I'm not. So I have to rely on them. I know you do as well. I'm this season is I'm so focused on the quarterback position.
Yeah.
I want it to be a close competition. Now, a lot of people's like, well, no, we want Wilson to win it. And hey, I'm fine with that because they need his veteran leadership. They have not had that since Ben left. They have a very young roster, especially in certain places. They're going to be relying on some young receivers. They need Wilson. We need these receivers, especially Pickens and Wilson, Roman Wilson, and Calvin Austin III. We need guys like Darnell Washington to believe in Wilson. When you're running a route and you're like, if I work open, I can trust that guy. He's going to hit me.
Yeah.
We seen how many points was left on the field last year. There was opportunities there that were missed. If the Steelers can capitalize on a couple more a game, they're a different team. They're going to average 24 a game. That with that defense, if you can average 24 a game, you're going to win a lot of games. So I think that Wilson can give them that because he has that confidence. He has that calmness, the stability factor. But I want Fields to be pushing him because you always want somebody pushing. That's going to bring out the best and keep Wilson focused. And I actually think to see what they have in Fields for the future. I'm wanting to hear coming out. I want to hear both guys are playing so competitive and above line that it's going to make it a tough decision for the coaches.
Yeah, I love that. And particularly, I was thinking about it as you said it, and we might unpack this during the dog days of summer that are coming up. But the Steelers haven't really had someone pushing their number one quarterback for a very long time. And even when
you need it when you got a franchise quarterback, but right now they don't have a franchise. They're trying to find one.
It looks like we're gonna go there. The way Ben reacted when Rudolph was drafted, and yeah, that was though they should have spent a third round pick on someone to help Ben, was one narrative. Not that I thought he genuinely thought he was under threat, because obviously he wasn't. But he was different when they brought in Rudolph than what he was with Landry Jones. And Rudolph was a better prospect than Landry Jones. The Steelers didn't handle Rudolph well at all. He had no quarterback coach. They didn't do that.
They didn't need one. They had a franchise quarterback.
Right.
They didn't need an offensive coordinator because Ben was the offensive coordinator. I mean, that's what people don't understand. Ben was, if you listen to Joshua Dobbs' interview in a podcast,
yeah,
Ben was a natural. He was the guy, Dobbs said, there's only been a handful of guys you could ever compare to Ben.
Yeah.
And so the problem is When Ben can no longer carry the franchise, then all the warts showed.
Yeah. All I'm saying is that, like, I kind of wonder. I'm back in what you said about Fields with Russell. I think pushing people sometimes is really, really important, right? And I'm just saying that when they brought in Mason, because I don't think he genuinely ever thought like Landry Jones was anything. Colbert went on and on and on about this first round grade about Rudolph. Not that Colbert was going to unseat, a play that's instrumental in Colbert's legacy. Like, but Colbert's never going to oust Ben for Rudolph, right? Yeah. I feel like I saw some competitiveness out of Ben, even in the way he talks about it now, still today with his show. I just think I saw something there that, like, it brought out. I think it brought out more from Ben in his latter years than what would have been if there was just like someone with a lot less ability. That's all I'm saying. So feeding into what you're saying about Fields and Wilson, I want Wilson pushed. I want Wilson to be the best, absolutely the best Russell Wilson that he can be right now. Not 90% best Russell Wilson he can be right now. Not 80% Russell Wilson. I want Russell Wilson fired up. There's someone breathing down his neck. I got to play well. Like, it's not 26-8 last year, 26 touchdowns and interceptions. Are not good enough. I need 36-12 or 36 at better, 36-10. That's what I want. Like, you need to do Aaron Rodgers, like, I think it was 2019 season kind of thing. I think it was 42-12.
You said something. I think people, they want to talk about Ben and he wasn't super friendly to Rudolph and he wasn't happy with that pick. I'm going to tell you something. When they picked Rudolph, I was furious.
I bet.
Because, no, I mean, here's why. They had holes, guys. Kevin Colbert ignored the offensive line for a decade. A decade. And then he's picking a quarterback when you've still got a franchise quarterback. I mean, because everybody said, well, Ben said he might retire. He was frustrated with Todd Haley. He was frustrated with the lack of an offensive line. He was frustrated. A lot of quarterbacks say that. But that don't mean you run out and draft a guy and insinuate that you're putting pressure on your franchise, face of the franchise. No, it irritated me to death. Okay, how happy was Tom Brady when they brought in Garoppolo? He got Garoppolo shipped out, didn't he? How happy was Favre when Rodgers was behind him, or Rodgers when Love was behind him? Listen, quarterbacks, they see holes, they see needs. They're like, get me another receiver, get me an offensive lineman, get some help for the defense. Don't waste the time on a third pick, which is still a premium pick, to bring in a guy because I said I might retire. I hear that all the time from a lot of people. I know it's not what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But I hear that from so many people and saying that Ben was being childish or immature and didn't and inviting men to give him hugs and kisses. None of the greats do that. When you succeed, one of the all-time greats, Montana and Young were cordial, but Montana didn't want Steve Young behind him. That's why he got forced out the door. And I think Montana could have still won more. But Young won once, so, it worked out. But I'm just saying that people don't understand that the great ones look at the game different. And if you're just like a mediocre guy and they bring in a guy sitting behind you, like having Mitch Trubisky, having Kenny Pickett come in, hey, have buddies go have drinks and go play down in Florida and invite everybody in. They'll do that because you're trying to, just keep your position on the team. A roster spot. When you're the star, you're wanting them to build a team around you that you can get back to a Super Bowl. And picking Rudolph was not the answer.
This is why I'm going to make an all too early prediction. I was going to do this. Justin Fields isn't in Pittsburgh next year. If Russell Wilson plays the first 5 to 6 games very, very well and the Steelers have a hot start, doesn't matter what will happen down there. Unless it absolutely falls off and it's as bad as last year, they ain't signing Justin Fields to $20 million plus. They will do the deal with Russ. And that's what, or they'll decide they'll carry Russ through while they go and find, and they'll get someone learning off behind him. They'll sit a quarterback for a year after having the Pickett situation. They'll sit a quarterback for a year and let Russ and not, they'll find a way to. They're going to probably sign Najee to do a 2-year deal, like I've suggested all along.
They hinted
the
about that
deal
this week.
and yeah, exactly right. So all my don't tag him and everyone getting cranky. It's like, well, yeah it makes fiscal sense. Then they'll have Najee and Warren running the rock next year, and it'll all be good, right? So I don't see unless something crazy changes in training camp, or unless Fields is happy to take like $10 million a year. I just don't see Fields in Pittsburgh next year. I just don't.
I think that the 3-year contract, Tomlin's wanting to win a Super Bowl, obviously, in this 3-year window. Quarterbacks can play to the 40 easily in the right system with the right expectations. We've already said that in Arthur Smith's system, it's going to be a lot of handing off. It's going to be a lot of play action.
Yeah.
It's going to be limited reads, get the ball out of your hand. And I think Wilson is ready to accept those responsibilities. And if he flourishes in it, he gives them the better chance to win a Super Bowl in the near future. Fields is going to have to really show something. And I'm hoping they give him a chance to show something with certain packages throughout the season, as I've talked about.
Yeah.
But I agree. I do not think you get both guys back next year.
Question for you. I don't know, we're now starting to get an ifs, maybes, could be's, whatever, and playing Nostradamus and getting out the crystal ball, usually leaves people with.
We need Big G for that.
Boom. I could say a few other people, but they wouldn't take it as a joke. They'd take it as criticism. But the Steelers buys, unless I'm an idiot, is week 9, right? Yes, week 9, I think.
I think there's 8 and then the bye. Yeah.
Yeah. So if they go in 4-4, right, and we know they've got a tough stretch down the road, they go 4-4, because at the end of week 8, that's when the trade deadline goes. So it's a really convenient time for the Steelers as well, because if you want to bring someone in, right, so I think we could see more activity than we do usually, no matter how the season's going. Because
but you can't trade Wilson.
You can't trade Wilson. No.
He's got the no trade clause.
Exactly. No, I wasn't going there, but it's a very good point to bring up because someone will comment, well, you could trade Wilson with what I'm about to say.
I know what you're getting ready to say.
You know what but I'm just saying also it means that it's a very good time if they need a new safety or, hopefully linebacker, but you can install someone into the team in that bye week right after the trade deadline, right, for the Steelers. If the Steelers acquire someone. But do you consider if you're 4-4, do you ship Justin Fields to a quarterback needy team?
It's just going to depend. I mean,
I guess my point is that was such an astute trade that they made.
Oh yeah,
flip Kenny Pickett, wait till the quarterback market drops, wait till right before the draft, and then get Fields for what they got him. Talk about buying low and having the ability to sell high, or to benefit for generations to come. If obviously if he can go on and become the starting quarterback, the front office move that was huge. And this is why I think these narratives around Ayuk is not going to be a Steeler. That is not happening. He's too expensive.
I don't see it.
Deebo Samuel as well. I don't think the 49ers, after listening to John Lynch's interview, I almost put out a show where I was commenting about some parallels that I see that are good with this between the Steelers and what John Lynch is doing in San Francisco. After listening to John Lynch, and I encourage anyone to go out and listen to it, about 20 minutes with Pat McAfee. They're listening to his interview with the 49ers. They are desperate to win a Super Bowl. They ain't moving those guys this year. Unless they get something astronomical, they're there to win it this year. They keep getting so close. And the thing that beats them is Pat Mahomes down the stretch. Kinlaw going down hurt them, struck big time on defense. They need every freaking weapon for Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy ain't Patrick Mahomes. Brock Purdy ain't Ben Roethlisberger. Brock Purdy ain't Josh Allen at the Bills. He needs every freaking weapon, and they're not going to be able to do that without Ayuk and Deebo. And even though they signed Jennings, they want to run it back. That's what they're trying to do.
When people look at the guys they're looking at and they keep throwing out there as possibilities, you got to accept the fact that if they get them, Pickens is gone.
Yeah,
because you're deciding
you can't sign him. Yeah,
you've already invested in Pickens, and at some point I want to talk about Azani. I love our new wide receiver coach. I love him. He's putting these guys through the paces, and if they run it wrong, he makes them do it again. You're not going to have half effort. He will, you're not going to. You don't want to come to that sideline and do the Deontay Johnson, I ain't picking up that fumble, or do the I was standing around on the route.
Well, maybe next week we'll do a coaching. Maybe we'll do a coaching focus segment, and then we can go into it and we can do some comparisons.
You see, I wanted Hines Ward as a possible wide receiver coach to instill a level of toughness and intensity and personal responsibility. Well, Asante's doing that. I mean, this kid is I really like him, and we see the success he had with the Jets receivers, and I'm very excited to have him, and I think we're going to see a huge difference. But if they get one of these top guys that's going to be a wide receiver one or already is one, then you might as well say bye to Pickens. The Steelers have went through this before. Hines, Ward, Plaxico, Barris, AB, and Sanders. They keep one and one goes bye-bye.
Yeah.
And I think you stick with Pickens and see what he can do.
But also, why would you go and spend that money, as you've talked about, at probably to the bane of your existence? Wide receiver 2 in the Arthur Smith offense doesn't really do any. Doesn't really, they're not that. It's not the same as our offenses. Tight ends are important, and we've got 2 really good running backs. And no matter how good he is, and I hope he's great, but Russ is still in the aging older quarterback category. No matter how he plays, you're gonna run the rock. It's like you and I talked about the Chargers, and it's important. It's an important point that we'll talk about closer into that game. But the Chargers this year, one of the big knocks on them over the past few years has been that they ask Herbert to be the best quarterback in the league 80% of the game, and he only gets 20% of a game where he can be an average quarterback. He's got to do lightning in the bottle sort of stuff, down in, down out. And in fact, the whole idea of bringing in, John Harbaugh is to give them a much more stable offense, a very good defense that instead only requires Justin Herbert to be elite, in 20% of the games, because that's how you're going to get the best out of him, over the course of a season, the playoffs, and a career. And so that's the same thing with Russell Wilson, particularly in an Arthur Smith offense. So I keep sitting here and I keep hearing wide receiver. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't want to be a hypocrite. I've said in the comments, I would like someone that is a little bit more. Would I like someone that's a little bit more proven in an ideal world? Yes, I would. But my problem is not necessarily, and it's what you've said in the comments, and I completely agree with. My problem is not necessarily that it's that they don't have anyone not proven. I think they've got guys, as you said before, they've got very versatile wide receivers. They've got very fast wide receivers. My problem is there's no like for like with Pickens, which is why I don't understand why they couldn't have spent $3 million on DJ Chalk or a similar guy, right? So that is what I'm looking for during training camp or through those preseason games. I do still want to see them bring a wide receiver in that is a big-bodied, fast, downfield receiver. I do want that. Like my idea, not an Arthur Smith offense necessarily, because I'm not sure we're fully fit. But when I go out there and I upload my Madden game, I ideally like to have Pickens and Pittman. Right. I just love that because I know that downfield, it's all day. The defense has got to think downfield because, we need someone there because invariably Pickens, particularly the aggressive way he plays, they might miss a game or two. And that's what concerns me is I don't think they've got someone that's the bigger bodied or rangy wide receiver that can fill in the mix. Right now, if it's one game here and there, fine. I think you can, augment your offense to fit it. But I do worry if he was to miss, 3 to 4 weeks, which, that could happen. You have to think. And people are like, oh, we don't want to, have the yips and we don't want to think about all this, this stuff. Like, we don't want that to happen. But when I think about it, I always think about things. I try to think about things from a GM perspective. I need to think about that. Like, I've got a plan to, like, if you don't have a plan, if you fail, then you're failing. Yeah, sorry. If you fail to plan, you're planning to fail.
There you go.
There we go. Right. I really need my coffee this morning. It's not going well.
But what you're saying is true. If you really look, along top to bottom on both sides, we know that TJ Watt is irreplaceable.
Yeah.
But they're in a better place now to handle him being out than they were when he was out the first time. Right now, the biggest area of concern is if Pickens was to go down, there is nobody that can emulate and give you what he gives you.
Yep.
And we've talked about it. That would be something that I would like to see happen. Even like a Terry McLaurin from the Commanders, who could be like a wide receiver too, and that might be available with the trade for a team that needs offensive line help.
He would be the best wide receiver 2 in the league. You've got a 1A and a 1B then, really. Like,
I would. I mean, but he could be available because they do need help on the offensive line.
I've seen things since, but when we were doing it, everyone was going to wide receiver hype in March and April.
Mm-hmm.
I tweeted out. I did a show on this. I tweeted out one name: Terry McLaurin.
And Khan's paying attention. I mean, he's going to.
He didn't listen to me last year.
Yeah,
he didn't listen to me last year. He didn't listen to me last year with the strong safety.
But I'm saying he's probably already thinking the same thing.
I hope so. Well, that's going to wrap up this week's Steelers Global Perspective content. Shannon and I are solving all the Steelers world problems, as always, on the Steelers Global
We have to because they won't pick up the phone when I call.
I'm ending it right there. Have a good weekend, all. Go Steelers.